Hello guys and girls, welcome back to Competitive Console Gaming. My name is Aardvark, and today I'm going to be outlining some of the character changes made in the most recent Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS update, version 1.0.6, also known as the Mewtwo patch. Keep in mind that these are most likely not all the changes, and some are still being discovered, so be sure to share your findings in the comments below. With that, let's get started with Diddy Kong. Now, Diddy Kong has received quite a few changes. He's been nerfed quite a bit. Let's start with his up air damage, which has been reduced from 8% to 6%, and there may be some knockback reductions as well. Everyone seems to be a bit unsure as far as that one goes. Next up, his forward air damage has been reduced. It had some variations, so before it would do anywhere from 12 to 10%. That has been reduced to 10 to 8%. But most of these changes are, a 2% decrease in damage. That stays true with his up throw as well, which has been reduced from 10% damage to 8% damage. His down throw has only been decreased by 1%. It used to do 7%, and now after the patch, it does 6%. So that's all from Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong did, as I said before, receive quite a nerf with all these changes. Next up is Sheik, who got only one change, but it is a really big one, a really significant one. Her back air has been reduced from 10% damage to dealing 7% damage. So, that's a 3% difference. That's really big. Obviously, only one change, but it's definitely a significant one for the metagame. Moving on, that's it for Sheik. Next up, we have the Sword Fighter, who a lot of people were requesting should get a buff. I noticed a lot of the customs community wanted the Sword Fighter to be buffed because it is, in fact, it was, I suppose, the weakest Mii fighter. As far as whether that remains to be true, we'll have to see. But the Sword Fighter's down tilt damage has been increased from 6% to 8%. And his or her, I should say, neutral air has been increased from 5% to 8%. So, not a lot of changes, but definitely good ones. I definitely agree with the neutral air being increased. Down tilt is somewhat interesting, but definitely the neutral air is an extremely good thing. Increasing that by 3 is great. Moving on, we now have Lucina, who actually has been changed quite a bit. It's actually fairly noticeable just playing with Lucina after the patch. This is a lot to take in, so get ready. Her forward air, her down tilt, her forward smash, her second hit down smash, her uncharged shield breaker have all received approximately a 0.5% damage increase. So that's really interesting. Just about all of her moves, most of her moves, I should say, have been buffed. Even slightly, it makes a huge difference in Smash Bros. So I'm all for this because a lot of people talk about how Lucina can't compete with Marth. So I think this is a positive improvement and change. One more change for Lucina, she also has received a 1% damage increase in her fully charged shield breaker. So that's interesting as well. Next up we have Kirby, whose down throw damage has been increased a ton, 4 whole percent points. It went from 6%, now it does 10%, so that's pretty extreme. Kirby also seems to have a faster inhale animation, so the inhale acts out faster. So that's really interesting, an interesting way to buff up Kirby. Next up we have Rob, who his up throw knockback appears to have been reduced. Similarly, Sonic has received a knockback reduction in his back throw. significant changes, but somewhat smaller changes compared to the rest of the patch. Next up, we're going to talk about Ganondorf, whose jab damage has been increased by 1%. So that's interesting. It used to do 6 to 9%, and it will now do 7 to 10%. So that's pretty interesting. Next up, we have Charizard, whose up throw damage has been increased pretty significantly by 3%. It used to do 8%, now it does a total of 11%. And the next change for Charizard is his Flare Blitz self damage, or recoil damage, has been increased by 1%. It used to be 4%, now it's gone up to 5%. So that's pretty interesting. There's still no change to Flare Blitz's damage output to enemies, but the recoil damage that Charizard receives has been increased from 4 to 5%. Finally, we have Pac-Man, who's only received one change. His grab animation is actually slightly faster, so that's pretty interesting. So, just a faster grab animation for Pac-Man. Well, that about does it for the changes, at least that we are aware of, or that I am aware of. Like I said, these are most likely not all of the changes made in the patch. These are just the ones that I am currently aware of. Anything that you guys have found, feel free to sound off in the comments below, just so everyone is on the same page. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. This has been Aardvark for Competitive Console Gaming. See you guys later.